If you or your gym buddy is doing these exercises, there's a good chance that you are just blatantly wasting your time and not getting the most out of your time spent in the gym. Now, if you're cool with that, you could definitely proceed as you'd like. But if not, let's go over the 5 worst exercises that I will commonly see in the gym for muscle growth. So, number one, and if you've seen my videos in the past, you know that I've hated on these before, but it's Bosu ball squats. For the sake of muscle growth, this is just not a good exercise. And the core reason why this is the case is because they just look so stupid. Okay, that's not the actual reason. The actual reason is because you have such little stability when doing a Bosu ball squat. And I actually should go back on what I just said. They don't actually look that stupid. They actually kind of look cool, especially if you could do single leg and stuff like that. They can look cool for the gram. But the core reason why these aren't great is because the lack of stability that they have. When you do a Bosu ball squat, you're doing them on an unstable surface. And this prevents you from actually being able to produce force with your lower body musculature. And if you're not able to produce force, then you're not going to be able to recruit all the muscle fibers in your lower body muscle tissue. And if you're not able to recruit all those muscle fibers to produce force, then you're not going to be providing a stimulus for those muscles to grow. So this actually isn't just for Bosu ball squats. This would be for any exercise that just lacks quite a bit of stability. This might be some single leg exercises. This could be even face pulls, in which you are just standing next to the machine. That's really unstable for your torso and it prevents you from producing much force. So I think a much better face pull is actually seated on the ground, as it kind of stabilizes you. And if you try this out, you're going to notice that you are much stronger when doing these seated on the ground. So number one is Bosu ball squats, but really any exercise that lacks stability. Number two is front delt raises. Most people looking to just generally get jacked are going to be able to build their front delts plenty with just their regular pressing exercises, especially with more of an incline press. That is definitely going to develop your front deltoid. And I think that for most people, your attention and time in the gym is much better spent working on your medial and rear delts, as that's going to really allow you to have that kind of capped delt look, which is what most people are going for when they're training their delts. The third exercise that I think is not a good muscle building exercise, and maybe when I see people doing these, it's not really for the purpose of muscle growth. I definitely hope it's not, but that's why I've created this video, so you're not doing it for muscle growth. And this is going to be this weird like side delt swing thing that people do. I see this all the time in the gym, and maybe it's like a rehab or prehab thing, which let's not go down the prehab route right now. But like, what are you trying to stimulate with this exercise if you're trying to use it for muscle growth? It's definitely not like your medial delts, because that's, not how gravity works. If anything, it's like a static bicep exercise. And at that point, that's just like, why not just do a regular bicep exercise in which you take the muscle through a full range of motion and actually stimulate it much better? So this one is going to get put on the exercises to avoid list. Number 4 is rack pulls. So don't get me wrong. There are probably situations in which if like I got someone or a client that really just wants to grow their upper back, they think that just makes them look way more masculine, which I definitely think it does. I think having a developed upper back and even like neck and traps, it definitely adds to kind of your masculine presence. And I think it looks good. But I would say that most of the time when people are doing rack pulls, they're doing them because you can just load up the bar with a ton of weight and you can really ego lift with them. And my main problem with this is that if you load up like 4 plates on the bar and you're just doing like a 6-inch rack pull, yeah, you might be stimulating your upper back a bit, but you're also adding a ton of fatigue. You're getting a lot of like axial loading from holding that barbell in your hands and having so much weight on it, and it's adding just a bunch of fatigue. And I don't think that the fatigue to stimulus ratio here is very good whatsoever. And I think better exercises here are going to be things like rows, in which you keep your elbows a little bit higher and you stimulate your upper back, or even a shrug to work on those traps, or even a wide grip shrug, as wide grip shrugs potentially stimulate those upper traps a little bit more than just regular shrugs. So given all this, I think for the most part, rack pulls just don't have a good stimulus to fatigue ratio. And the main reason people do them is because of their ego, and that is not a good reason to do an exercise. So these would also make my list of an exercise that I barely ever program, and I think most people should just probably avoid it. And then the fifth exercise to avoid, it's not technically one single exercise, but it's more of a group of exercises. And this is thinking that you need to do any one particular exercise in general to grow muscle. As I know that when I was first getting into like lifting and lifting for aesthetics and getting jacked, I kind of thought that I needed to do the big three, the bench, squat, and deadlift. And I think a lot of people kind of think this is the case. And it is just not true. When focusing on growing muscle, exercises are simply just tools to stimulate a target muscle enough so it grows, but not so much that you can't recover from it. And when taking that understanding, then there is a ton of different exercises that you can use as a tool to grow muscle. And there's no one particular exercise that anybody has to do. I don't care if it's a bench, squat, deadlift. Yeah, those can definitely be good exercises to grow muscle. But for a lot of people and a lot of my clients over the last several years of coaching, the bench, squat, and deadlift in particular tend to not be that great of exercises from a stimulus to fatigue ratio standpoint. As for me personally, I know that when I get above 3 plates on the squat, it seems like no matter what I do, I start to feel it in my low back a little bit. And I just don't get that same sensation when doing a Smith machine squat or a hack squat or a leg press. And a lot of my clients notice a similar thing as well. And then also on the bench press, me personally, I don't mind the bench press. It does sometimes hurt my shoulder a little bit, but a lot of clients, it just doesn't feel like a good exercise for them. So don't get tied to any one exercise in particular, thinking you need to do it, because exercises are just tools to stimulate a target muscle. And there are plenty of tools that we have at our disposal to stimulate our muscles enough for growth. Now, wouldn't it also be nice if I did a ranking of some of the best and worst exercises for muscle growth?